CNN Center Atlanta, I'm David Goodnow. This is the latest headline news. Another chance for a priest convicted of molesting a teenage babysitter. Minnesota Supreme Court has ordered a new trial for James Porter. The court ruled a prosecutor committed misconduct when he suggested jurors would be suckers if they acquitted Porter. Several times during the trial, prosecutor Richard Hodson also referred to the, quote, James Porter School of Sex Education. But overturning the 1992 conviction won't make Porter a free man. He is currently serving an 18-year sentence for abusing 28 children in Massachusetts. Pop star Michael Jackson has filed a $100 million lawsuit against the radio station and Paramount, producer of the TV tabloid show Hard Copy. Jackson contends Hard Copy reporter Diane Dimond slandered him in a radio broadcast that alleged police are investigating new charges of child molestation. A spokesman for the program said Hard Copy stands by its reporting. A federal grand jury has indicted a daughter of black nationalist Malcolm X on charges of plotting the killing of Louis Farrakhan. Her lawyer said she intends to plead not guilty. Jeff Locke reports from Minneapolis.
Whites have to be re-educated.
He was the controversial voice of the Nation of Islam. In 1965, his 4-year-old daughter watched as Malcolm X was brutally murdered. 30 years later, Qubilah Shabazz emerges from a Minneapolis courthouse accused of planning to avenge that murder.
The federal grand jury in the District of Minnesota indicted Qubilah Shabazz for use of the telephone and traveling interstate in the course of a murder-for-hire conspiracy to kill Louis Farrakhan.
Louis Farrakhan, the fiery, controversial present-day leader of the Nation of Islam, admitted foe of Malcolm X before his death. Federal prosecutors in Minnesota say Qubilah Shabazz plotted and paid money to have Farrakhan killed.
She was entrapped, she was induced, seduced, enticed.
Public defender Scott Tilson suggests to CNN that Shabazz was set up by a childhood friend who he says
was the driving force, was the instigator, planted the seed, encouraged the growth of the idea, and he was picking on an easy target.
A woman who for 30 years has carried the memory of her father's murder and was said to be intrigued by speculation on Farrakhan's alleged involvement, which he has denied. As early as a year before the assassination, Farrakhan wrote in a Nation of Islam publication that Malcolm X was, quote, worthy of death. And as recently as last year, Qubilah Shabazz's own mother said in this interview that she believed Farrakhan was somehow involved in her husband's murder.
Of course, yes. I mean, it was a matter of, it was a badge of honor. I mean, nobody kept it a secret. It was a badge of honor. Everybody talked about it.
Now, with her daughter facing a maximum of 90 years in prison, Betty Shabazz declined to repeat her charge against Farrakhan and defended her daughter.
My daughter has nothing, absolutely nothing to gain by any of that.
Prosecutors say Ms. Shabazz moved here to Minneapolis, where the alleged hitman resides, for the express purpose of carrying out her plot. They say they have audio and videotape evidence against her, as well as the apparent cooperation of that alleged hitman. Prosecutors say Minister Farrakhan was aware of the plot against him, but that at no time was he in any danger. I'm Jeff Locke, CNN in Minneapolis.
Opening arguments in the OJ Simpson murder trial are expected to begin at the end of next week. The court finished a hearing Thursday on whether evidence of spousal abuse should be presented to the jury. Prosecutors withdrew 17 of 62 incidents they were planning to introduce. They want to admit the remaining items. Simpson's attorneys say the alleged domestic violence is irrelevant, but prosecutors argue it will help them prove a motive.
He had tried everything else. He had tried everything that common sense would indicate that you can do to control someone. He tried to take away her sense of personal dignity through the belittlement, through the name-calling. He took away her sense of financial security through the IRS letter. He took away her sense of physical security through the abuse and the violence. And then when there wasn't anything else that he could think of to take away from her, he took away her life.
This is not a classic case of the battered wife syndrome. This is a classic case of whodunit. And we will contend that this murder was done by parties other than Mr. Simpson, And that is the only issue we're going to litigate.
On Friday, the court will consider the subpoena of Simpson's first wife and motions regarding Detective Mark Furman. Judge Lance Ito plans to rule on the admissibility of the abuse allegations by next Wednesday. Police in Miami say they've accounted for the fourth of 5 killers who escaped from prison 10 days ago. Jesus Martinez was arrested in the Little Havana neighborhood of Miami on Thursday. A third escapee was arrested Wednesday night in the same neighborhood. So far, police have captured 3 of the escapees and fatally shot another. The men tunneled out of the Glades Correctional Institution. One of them remains at large. Thousands of Californians spent the day cleaning up mud and debris from floodwaters. At least 11 deaths are blamed on storms that pounded the state for 10 days. 17,000 customers in Northern California still are without power. From Redwood Forest to the wine country and as far south as Malibu, the storms caused nearly $200 million in property damage. Although the skies cleared Thursday, a weaker storm is expected to come in this weekend. In Haiti, a U.S. soldier shot by a passenger in a car is the first American casualty there from hostile fire. The U.S. Embassy said a pickup truck ran a checkpoint 100 miles north of Port-au-Prince in Gonaïves on Thursday. 2 soldiers approached it after it stopped. The passenger, a former Haitian Army officer, emerged shooting. He killed 1 American soldier and wounded a second before being shot dead by a third. A crowd nearly killed the driver before the other soldiers intervened. Chechnya appears to be on the brink of collapse. Russia has launched its heaviest assault yet on the capital city of Grozny, with fresh artillery and rocket attacks. Observers say Russian troops are closing in on the presidential palace and city center and simply rolling over the rebel positions. The breakaway republic's leaders reportedly have fled. A Russian unilateral 48-hour ceasefire expired Thursday after being largely ignored by both sides. In the Philippines, security for the Pope is intensifying after reports a group of Muslim terrorists is planning a bombing attack. Police are hunting for them. John Paul II stepped off his plane in Manila Thursday to cheering Filipinos chanting, "Long live the Pope." He's visiting Asia's only Roman Catholic country as part of an 11-day, 4-nation tour of Asia. The United States is coming to the rescue of the plummeting Mexican peso. Well, Blitzer reports Washington hopes a huge aid package will have a stabilizing effect.
President Clinton invited the bipartisan congressional leadership to the White House to put the finishing touches on a plan that would provide Mexico with about $25 billion in U.S.-backed loan guarantees.
We agreed to do what is necessary to restore financial confidence in Mexico without affecting the current budget at home.
It's the latest and most dramatic step yet taken to restore confidence in the shaky Mexican economy and the peso. Officials say House Speaker Newt Gingrich and Senate Majority Leader Bob Dole have signed off on the plan, effectively guaranteeing congressional approval. The loan guarantees would be in addition to the $9 billion U.S. line of credit that Mexico already has.
We agreed that the United States has an important economic and strategic interest in a stable and prosperous Mexico. Ultimately, the solution to Mexico's economic problems must come from the people of Mexico, but we are pursuing ways to increase financial confidence and to encourage further reform in Mexico.
In a further effort to signal U.S. confidence in Mexico, Federal Reserve Chairman Alan Greenspan joined Treasury Secretary Robert Rubin in endorsing the deal. After the meeting, President Clinton immediately telephoned Mexican President Ernesto Zedillo with the news. Under the plan, Mexico could borrow money at relatively modest interest rates in the financial markets. This would allow Mexico to pay off some short-term debts it's struggling to keep up with. The U.S. government would guarantee repayment in an arrangement similar to what's been worked out with Israel in recent years. Officials stressed there would be virtually no cost to U.S. taxpayers, that Mexico would bear all the expenses, including insuring and managing the new loans. The importance of the deal, they say, is largely political. It tells Mexicans and the world that Uncle Sam is ready to make sure the Mexican economy does not collapse. Wolf Blitzer, CNN, the White House.
President Clinton has appointed Connecticut Senator Christopher Dodd general chairman of the Democratic Party. And in a two-tiered leadership arrangement, he has installed South Carolina politician Don Fowler as the national chairman to run daily affairs. They will lead the effort to rebuild the party after devastating election losses last November. The president got some advice on how to do that from freshman House members Thursday. Pennsylvania Congressman Mike Doyle said Mr. Clinton should do a better job of communicating his successes. A drug used to treat herpes may soon be available over the counter. That could make life easier for patients, but it has some people worried. Dan Rutz reports.
Patricia Fortuna has herpes, but she also has Acyclovir 3 times a day.
When I do that, I don't get any outbreaks. So that was a godsend.
It doesn't work that well for everyone, but over a dozen years of experience has shown it to be safe and effective for most. So in a suburban Washington hearing room, the company asks the Food and Drug Administration to lift the requirement for a doctor's prescription and make Acyclovir available over the counter, primarily as a convenience to patients.
They'll be able to get the drug quicker and easier and start their therapy quicker when the drug is most effective.
But no prescription also means no doctor. Even though the drug maker recommends people see one, Patricia Fortuna worries that many won't bother and might miss learning all they need to know about controlling herpes.
And the disease might be spread more rapidly and more easily. It's basically not the drug itself, it's the lack of information about herpes.
That's why there's been so much discussion today about how effective is patient education to alert potential consumers to the need to first see their doctor.
The drug maker promises a massive education and advertising campaign, but says it can only afford to do it if the rich over-the-counter market is open. And they have yet to find out if the networks, which have refused condom ads, will be more open to advertising a herpes drug. Whether it's by prescription or open sale, the potential market for Acyclovir is exploding. According to the U.S. government, genital herpes is a major sex life spoiler. 1/4 to 500,000 Americans will be infected this year. Dan Rutz, CNN, Rockville, Maryland.
A federal appeals court has lifted its ban on returning wolves to Yellowstone National Park, and several wolves have been released from kennels into 1-acre pens. Ranchers tried to block the release, saying wolves kill livestock. The 12 wolves were captured in Canada. They've been forced to remain in cramped crates. Conservationists had worried they would die if not released soon. Hunters killed off gray wolves to the Rocky Mountain region some 60 years ago. Motorists obeyed them. They were cheaper than people, but the state of Alaska is being forced to retire a pair of traffic gorillas. Mechanical creatures wearing fluorescent vests and wearing yellow hard hats sat atop barrels with rotating paddles that said stop and slow. They were yanked off a dirt road near Juneau because federal officials said only humans are allowed to use signs to direct traffic. Consumer News is next, and later celebrities face a famous mess in water-soaked Malibu.
This is Headline News, a CNN network.
The 20 minutes that can change your life. Inside your body is a better body. Millions have discovered how good it feels to be toned and alert instead of overweight and sluggish. Discover just how easy it is to obtain your Nordic Track body with Nordic Track, the world's best aerobic exerciser. In as little as 20 minutes a day, you can accomplish your weight loss and fitness goals with Nordic Track.
I was able to take off 57 pounds.
I've lost 10 pounds since I started with my Nordic Track.
Only Nordic Track has a patented flywheel and one-way clutch mechanism to create a smooth, natural exercise motion that burns calories fast, up to 1,100 an hour. And Nordic Track gives results in just 12 weeks. In a recent study, Nordic Track users lost an average of 18 pounds. Plus, they also lowered their blood pressure an average of 12%. You can do it in as little as 20 minutes a day with Nordic Track.
I changed my life in just 20 minutes a day, 3 times a week with Nordic Track.
Call today for your free video and brochure.
Your world. Ours. Office solutions you can depend on today and tomorrow. Lanier, we're the part that's always working.
What can you buy for a dime these days?
Maybe a jawbreaker out of the candy machine.
I can't think of a single thing you can get for a dime.
I couldn't even tell you.
Now, Sprint introduces a whole new way to save on long distance. Every evening and all weekend long, a minute is just 10 cents. It's that simple.
Sprints, just 10 cents a minute? A dime a minute?
1 minute, 2 minutes, 3.
This isn't a joke, right?
Who says a dime doesn't buy you anything anymore?
Call now for 10 cents a minute and get up to 100 minutes free.
Sunday, it's the murder mystery that has riveted a nation. Now on the eve of the trial, CNN reviews the facts and examines the strategies inside the trial of OJ Simpson. A special CNN presents Sunday, 9 Eastern.
A judge is giving women more time to join a worldwide lawsuit against companies that make breast implants. Other judges, even the U.S. Supreme Court, are considering lawsuits by women who opted to sue on their own. Pat Etheridge has an update.
Marianne Hopkins, a California woman who suffered years of muscular pain, has won her legal battle against Dow Corning. This week, the Supreme Court let stand an earlier jury verdict awarding her more than $7 million in damages from the manufacturer of silicone breast implants.
Well, it's a victory not only for Marianne Hopkins, but for thousands of other women who have been exposed by Dow Corning to the hidden dangers of silicone breast implants.
In Birmingham, Alabama, Brenda Toole is going up against another corporation in federal court. She, too, says her health has suffered because of breast implants and is seeking more than $4 million in damages against Baxter Healthcare. Meantime, the number of women joining in the global lawsuit against a group of implant manufacturers has jumped to an estimated 250,000. And the count will likely climb because the judge overseeing the $4.2 billion settlement has extended the deadline for registration until March 1st. Even so, Dow Corning contends there's still enough money to cover all the claims.
That number sounds very large, but you have to remember